The coffee had gone cold 3 hours ago, but Vera kept sipping it anyway. Her desk at the Global Emergency Communications Center looked the same as it had for the past 2 years, cluttered with printouts, sticky notes, and a dying fern her sister had given her. The night shift paid better, and honestly, she preferred the quiet. Fewer calls meant more time to catch up on her online classes. At 2:47 a.m., the main alert board showed green across all channels. Europe was sleeping. Most of the Americas were too. Just another quiet Tuesday that had drifted into Wednesday morning. Vera stretched and cracked her knuckles. Her supervisor, Marcus Chen, had left around midnight, trusting her to handle anything that came through. In 2 years, the worst emergency she dealt with was a false tsunami warning from a drunk meteorologist in Fiji. The alert tone started soft, just a gentle beep from Station 7, International Religious Communications. She glanced over, expecting to see another routine message about a festival or ceremony. The Vatican sent regular updates about papal appearances and major events, but the text crawling across the screen made her pause. Priority Alpha, Vatican City Emergency Services. Catacomb access restricted until further notice. All tours suspended indefinitely. Security personnel only. Vera frowned. Alpha priority was reserved for genuine emergencies. She'd seen plenty of routine maintenance alerts from the Vatican, but they never used Alpha classification. She pulled up the full message. Emergency sealing protocols activated in underground sections. Estimated duration unknown. Contact Cardinal Toretti for press inquiries. No, further information available at this time. The message timestamp showed 3:52 a.m. Vatican time, just minutes ago. She tried calling the Vatican Communications Office. The line went straight to an automated message in Italian, then English. All lines are currently busy. Please try your call again, later. Vera printed the alert and walked to Marcus's office. His desk lamp was still on, and she could see his coffee mug with the Michigan State logo sitting next to a half-eaten sandwich. He'd probably just stepped out for a bathroom break. She waited 5 minutes, then 10. The building felt different somehow. Usually she could hear the maintenance crew working on the 3rd floor, or the occasional footsteps of the security guard making his rounds. Tonight, everything was quiet in a way that seemed deliberate. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Had to leave early. Family emergency. You're in charge until morning shift arrives. M. Vera stared at the message. Marcus never left early. His ex-wife lived in California, and his parents had died years ago. What family emergency? She tried calling him. Voicemail. Another alert tone. This time from Station 3, International News Services. Reuters was picking up the Vatican story, then CNN, then BBC. Breaking, Vatican catacombs sealed. Following unspecified emergency. Rome, Vatican officials have sealed access to historic catacombs beneath St. Peter's Basilica, following what sources describe as an unprecedented situation. Details remain unclear. Vera felt her stomach tighten. In her 2 years monitoring global communications, she'd never seen a story break this fast without more information. Usually when something happened at a major religious site, the details flooded through multiple channels within minutes. This was different. The news reports were all identical, as if they were working from the same limited source. She checked her email. Nothing from Marcus about any family emergency. His last message was from yesterday afternoon, asking her to water his desk plant. The elevator dinged from the hallway. Vera looked toward the sound, expecting to see the security guard. But the footsteps that followed were wrong. Too light. Too quick. Hello? She called out. No. Response. She walked to the hallway and peered around the corner. Empty. The elevator doors were closed, the indicator showing it had stopped on the 7th floor. But there were only 6 floors in the building. Vera returned to her desk and pulled up the building directory on her computer. 6 floors. just like she remembered. Another alert. This one from Station 12, Medical Emergency Communications. A message from Rome's emergency medical services, marked as confidential but accessible through their international sharing protocol. Multiple ambulances dispatched to Vatican City, nature of emergency classified. Medical personnel requested to bring specialized respiratory equipment and protective gear. Protective gear for what? Vera's hands moved across the keyboard without conscious thought, pulling up traffic monitoring systems around Rome. The streets near Vatican City showed unusual patterns, police barriers, closed roads, but no mention of any incident in the official reports. She tried accessing the Vatican's own emergency communication system, something she'd never done before, but her clearance level should allow it during a genuine emergency. The connection failed, not refused, not blocked, failed, as if the system simply didn't exist. Her computer screen flickered. For just a moment, all the text turned into symbols she didn't recognize, not any alphabet she'd ever seen. Then everything returned to normal. Vera rubbed her eyes. She'd been staring at screens for too long. The phone rang. The main emergency line. Global Emergency Communications, this is Vera. Thank God. The voice was young, female, with a British accent. This is Dr. Elena Sinclair. I'm with the International Archaeological Foundation. I've been trying to reach someone for an hour. What can I help you with, Dr. Sinclair? I need to report an emergency at the Vatican. Well, not exactly at the Vatican, but related to it. I'm in London, and something very strange is happening. Vera grabbed a pen. Go ahead. I specialize in early Christian archaeology. Yesterday, I received a priority request from the Vatican to analyze some photographs they'd sent me. Images from deep in the catacombs, sections that aren't usually photographed. They wanted my opinion on some inscriptions they'd found. Okay. The thing is, I never got the chance to respond. My entire laboratory lost power right after I viewed the images. Just my building. The rest of the block was fine. When the power came back on 6 hours later, all my computer files were corrupted. Every single one. 20 years of research. Gone. Vera felt something cold settle in her stomach. Dr. Sinclair, what did you see in those photographs? That's the problem. I can't remember. I mean, I remember looking at them, but when I try to recall what was actually in the images, my mind goes blank. It's like trying to remember a dream that's already fading. How many photographs were there? 17. I counted them as they downloaded. But here's what's really disturbing. I called my colleague, Dr. Tobias Hartwell at Oxford. He's one of the world's leading experts on early Christian symbology. He received the same request from the Vatican. His laboratory flooded last night. A water pipe burst that had been perfectly fine for 30 years. Vera wrote quickly, trying to capture every detail. Dr. Sinclair, have you been able to contact the Vatican directly? That's why I'm calling you. I can't reach them. Their phones are either busy or the lines are dead. I tried the main number, the archaeological department, even the press office. Nothing. I'm showing a similar situation here. We received an emergency alert about the catacombs being sealed, but no details about why. There's something else, Dr. Sinclair said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. I made copies of those photographs before my computer crashed. Hard copies, printed on paper. This morning they were blank, just white paper. But I distinctly remember printing 17 pages of archaeological images. The line went quiet. Vera could hear Dr. Sinclair breathing on the other end. Dr. Sinclair? Are you still there? Yes, sorry, This is going to sound insane, but I think someone is in my office. I can hear typing, but I'm alone in the building. The security cameras show no one else here. Dr. Sinclair, I think you should leave your building immediately. You're right. I'm going to... The line went dead. Vera tried calling back. The number was disconnected. She pulled up International Directory Assistance and searched for Dr. Elena Sinclair at the International Archaeological Foundation in London. No. Listing found. A search for Dr. Tobias Hartwell at Oxford returned the same result. No. Record of either person existing. Vera's hands started shaking. She'd just had a 15-minute conversation with someone who apparently didn't exist about photographs that had vanished in connection with an emergency at the Vatican that no one would explain. She tried to focus on concrete facts. The original Vatican alert was real. She still had the printout. The news reports were real. The medical emergency requests were real. But everything else felt like it was dissolving the moment she tried to examine it closely. Another alert tone. Station 15, International Telecommunications Monitoring. This one made her stomach drop. Global communication anomaly detected. Widespread interference in European religious communication networks. Cause unknown. Duration unknown. Advisory. Avoid unnecessary international religious communications until further notice. Vera printed the alert and added it to her growing stack. She tried calling Marcus again. This time, the number was disconnected too. She walked to Marcus's office and opened his desk drawer, looking for an emergency contact list. Inside, she found his employment file. According to the paperwork, Marcus Chen had never existed. The name on the file was Marcus Torres, and his employee photo showed a completely different person. Vera grabbed the file and ran back to her desk. She pulled up the employee directory on her computer. Marcus Torres was listed as her supervisor. She'd worked with him for 2 years, had conversations with him every single shift, knew that he preferred coffee to tea, and that he'd graduated from Michigan State. But the person in the employee photo was a stranger. Her computer screen flickered again. This time, when the text returned to normal, there were subtle differences. Words she was certain had been spelled one way were now spelled differently. Dates that had shown one thing now showed another. The Vatican alert was still there, but now it read slightly differently. Priority Alpha. Vatican City Emergency Services. Archaeological sections sealed due to structural concerns. Routine maintenance. Normal operations expected to resume within 48 hours. But she had the original printout right in front of her. The text was completely different. Vera grabbed her personal phone and started taking pictures of everything. The printouts, her computer screen, the employee file. She needed some way to prove what she was seeing. When she looked at the photos she'd just taken, they showed blank pages and empty screens. A sound came from the hallway. Footsteps again, but now they were heavy and deliberate. Multiple people walking in perfect unison. Vera turned off her desk lamp and crouched behind her chair. Through the glass wall of her office, she could see shapes moving past in the hallway. 4 figures, all wearing identical dark clothing. They moved like they were part of the same organism, turning their heads at exactly the same angle, stopping at exactly the same moment. They paused in front of her office door. One of them raised a hand and pointed directly at her hiding spot. Even in the darkness, she could see that the person was smiling. The figures continued down the hallway and disappeared around the corner. Vera waited until she couldn't hear their footsteps anymore, then quietly gathered her things. She needed to get out of the building. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than just the Vatican emergency. It was connected to her, to Marcus, to the mysterious doctors who may or may not have existed. She took the stairs instead of the elevator, moving as quietly as possible. The stairwell was darker than usual. Several of the lights had burned out since her shift started. On the 3rd floor landing, she heard voices above her. Multiple people talking in a language she didn't recognize. Not Italian, not any European language she'd heard before. The sounds were rhythmic, almost like chanting. Vera held her breath and continued down. 2nd floor, 1st floor, ground level. The lobby was empty, but the security desk showed signs of a struggle. The guard's coffee was spilled across the floor, and his chair was overturned. The security monitors were all showing static. She pushed through the front doors and stepped into the cool night air. The parking lot looked normal, but something felt wrong about the street beyond. The streetlights were working, but they seemed to be casting light in the wrong directions. Vera got in her car and drove straight home, checking her rearview mirror constantly. No, one followed her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. At home, she immediately tried researching everything she could about the Vatican emergency. But every search led to the same generic news reports with no real information. No mention of Dr. Sinclair or Dr. Hartwell. No record of any archaeological projects in the Vatican catacombs. She tried calling her sister in Denver. "Hello." Her sister's voice sounded different, flatter. "Lisa, it's Vera. I need to tell you about something weird that happened at work tonight." "I'm sorry, but I think you have the wrong number. I don't know anyone named Vera." Vera hung up and immediately called back. Same number she'd been calling for years. "Hello? Lisa, stop playing around. It's your sister." "I don't have a sister. Please stop calling this number." Vera stared at her phone. She tried calling her parents in Ohio. The number was disconnected. She tried her college roommate in Chicago. Disconnected. Her best friend from high school. Disconnected. According to her phone's contact list, these numbers had never existed. She ran to her bedroom and pulled out a photo album. Pictures of her family, her friends, her college graduation. In every photo, she was alone, standing by herself at graduation, sitting alone at restaurant tables, hugging empty air. But she remembered these people. She had vivid memories of conversations, shared experiences, arguments, laughter, 26 years of human connections that apparently had never existed. Vera sat on her bed and tried to think logically. Either she was having some kind of breakdown, or something was systematically erasing her connections to other people. The Vatican emergency was just the beginning. She thought about the figures in the hallway, the way they'd moved in perfect unison, the way one of them had pointed directly at her hiding spot. They'd known she was there. They'd wanted her to see them. Her laptop chimed with a new email. No sender listed, no subject line. Just a single sentence. "The work requires your participation." Vera deleted the email immediately. When she checked her deleted items folder, it was empty. Another email arrived. Same format. "Understanding is not necessary. Compliance is." She slammed the laptop shut, but the screen stayed on. The words were still visible through the closed lid, glowing brighter now. "Report to Vatican City within 72 hours. Transportation has been arranged." A car horn honked outside. Vera looked through her bedroom window and saw a black sedan parked in front of her house. The engine was running, but she couldn't see anyone inside. The horn honked again. Twice, then 3 times. A pattern. Vera realized she was going to Vatican City whether she wanted to or not. The question was whether she went willingly or was taken by force. She packed a small bag with clothes and toiletries, her passport, and all the cash she had in the house. Whatever was happening, she needed to understand it. The answers were in Rome, in the sealed catacombs beneath St. Peter's Basilica. As she walked toward her front door, her laptop screen flickered on one final time. "Welcome to the work, Vera. You have always been part of this." The black sedan's passenger door opened as she approached. The interior was empty, but the radio was playing soft classical music. Vera got in. The car began to drive itself toward the airport. The flight to Rome existed in her memory, like a half-remembered dream. Vera recalled boarding a plane, but couldn't remember other passengers. She remembered eating airline food, but when she tried to recall what it tasted like, her mind went blank. The only clear detail was the businessman sitting across the aisle who never moved, never blinked, and whose reflection didn't appear in the window beside him. She landed at Fiumicino Airport at dawn. Her luggage was waiting for her at baggage claim, though she couldn't remember checking it. A taxi driver holding a sign with her name led her to a pristine white vehicle that smelled like hospital disinfectant. "Vatican City," he said in perfect English. "You are expected." The drive through Rome felt like traveling through a movie set. Everything looked exactly as it should. The ancient buildings, the bustling traffic, the crowds of tourists, but nothing felt real. When Vera tried to take pictures with her phone, the camera showed only empty streets and vacant buildings. The taxi dropped her at St. Peter's Square. The driver handed her a small white envelope and drove away without waiting for payment. Inside the envelope was a keycard and a handwritten note. Service entrance, basement level. Follow the blue lights. Vera stood in the middle of the square, surrounded by tourists who seemed to move in slightly repetitive patterns. She watched a woman in a red dress take the same photograph 17 times, making identical movements each time. A group of children ran in a perfect circle, their laughter playing like a recording on loop. The service entrance was exactly where the note indicated. Her keycard worked on the first try. The basement levels of the Vatican were nothing like she'd expected. Instead of ancient stone corridors, she found herself in a modern facility with white walls and fluorescent lighting. Blue LED strips were embedded in the floor, creating a path that led deeper underground. She followed the lights through a maze of corridors. Occasionally, she passed other people, maintenance workers, security guards, clergy members, but none of them acknowledged her presence. They moved with the same synchronous precision she'd seen at her office building. The blue lights led to an elevator that required her keycard to operate. When the doors opened, she was surprised to see someone already inside. Dr. Sinclair? Vera couldn't believe it. The woman from the phone call was real after all. Vera, I was wondering when you'd arrive. Elena Sinclair looked exactly as Vera had imagined. Mid-30s, brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, wearing khaki pants and a wrinkled button-down shirt. I suppose you have questions. You called me 3 days ago. Your laboratory in London. Was never in London. I've been here the entire time. Elena pressed a button for a floor that wasn't labeled on the elevator panel. Just like you've been part of this the entire time, even though you didn't know it. The elevator descended for what felt like several minutes. When it finally stopped, the doors opened onto a vast underground chamber carved from solid rock. But this wasn't the ancient catacombs Vera had expected. The space was filled with modern equipment, computer terminals, monitoring devices, and dozens of screens showing data streams in languages she didn't recognize. Welcome to the actual Vatican project, Elena said. What you think of as the Vatican catacombs are just the cover story. Vera followed Elena through the chamber. Dozens of people worked at various stations, all moving with the same precise coordination she'd observed elsewhere. They wore white laboratory coats over normal clothing, and each had a small device attached to their ear. Cover story for what? Human consciousness research, specifically how to edit and modify human memory and perception in real time. Elena stopped at a workstation and pulled up a file on the computer. Vera saw her own photograph, along with detailed psychological profiles and behavioral analyses. You've been a test subject for the past 2 years. Vera's legs felt weak. She grabbed the edge of the desk for support. That's not possible. I remember my entire life, my family, my job, my constructed memories. We're very good at making them feel authentic. Elena scrolled through the file. Vera, age 26, born in Cleveland, Ohio. Parents named Robert and Margaret. Sister named Lisa in Denver. College degree from Ohio State. 2 years working at the Global Emergency Communications Center. All of that is true. None of it is true. Well, except your age and your name. Elena turned to face her. Your real name is Vera, and you are 26 years old. Everything else was created by us. Vera shook her head. No, I have memories going back to childhood. I remember my first day of school, my 10th birthday party, my high school graduation. Implanted. We've become very sophisticated at creating complete life histories. The human brain is remarkably adaptable. Given the right stimulation, It will accept almost any narrative as genuine experience. Elena led her to another section of the chamber, where several people were lying on medical beds with dozens of wires attached to their heads. Their eyes were open, but they stared at nothing. Occasionally, one of them would smile or frown, as if reacting to something invisible. These are our current long-term subjects. They're living entire lifetimes in accelerated time. Years of experience compressed into hours. We can make them believe they're living any life we choose. Successful businessman, loving parent, world traveler. Their brains create all the supporting details automatically. Vera felt sick. Why? Control. If we can edit human consciousness at will, we can eliminate crime, mental illness, social unrest. Imagine a world where everyone remembers being happy, where no one has traumatic experiences, where every person's memories support whatever social structure we deem optimal. That's not life, that's programming. What's the difference? Elena pulled up another file on her computer. This one showed brain scans and neural activity patterns. Consciousness is just electrical patterns in the brain. Memories are just specific neural pathways. If we can control those pathways, we control experience itself. Vera looked around the chamber with new eyes. The coordinated movements of the workers weren't just professional efficiency. They were literally thinking in unison, their individual consciousness subsumed into a collective pattern. How long have I been here? Your body arrived 3 days ago, but your consciousness has been connected to our systems for 2 years. The entire Global Emergency Communications Center experience was a simulation. Marcus, your coworkers, the emergency alerts, all generated by our computers to test your psychological responses. But I could touch things. I could taste food. I could feel the cold air outside. Virtual reality combined with direct neural stimulation, we can create any sensory experience we want. The Vatican emergency alert was designed to trigger specific psychological responses in test subjects. We wanted to see how you would react to anomalous information that challenged your perceived reality. Elena walked to a large screen showing a map of the world. Dozens of red dots indicated locations across every continent. You weren't the only test subject. We've been running similar experiments globally for the past 5 years. Thousands of people living simulated lives, completely unaware that their experiences aren't real. Each test helps us refine our techniques. Vera felt anger rising in her chest. You had no right to do this to me, to any of us. Rights are a social construct, and we're building a better society. Elena's voice remained calm and clinical. Consider the alternative. Humans are naturally violent, destructive, and irrational. Left to their own devices, they create war, poverty, and environmental collapse. We're offering a solution. By turning everyone into puppets. By giving everyone the gift of happiness. No more depression, no more anxiety, no more trauma. Just carefully crafted experiences designed to maximize psychological well-being. Vera looked at the test subjects on the medical beds. One of them was laughing softly, apparently delighted by whatever false memory was being created in his mind. Another was crying tears of joy. What happens to people who refuse? That's not really an option. Once someone enters our facility, their original consciousness becomes irretrievable. The neural pathways are overwritten permanently. Elena gestured toward a door marked Subject Integration. You'll be transferred there shortly for final processing. Final processing? Complete memory replacement. Your consciousness will be rebuilt from the ground up with whatever personality and life history we determine will be most useful. You might become a devoted researcher, a loyal administrator, or simply a happy citizen with no interest in questioning authority. Vera realized she was running out of time. Whatever was going to happen to her, it would happen soon. She needed to find a way to stop this, not just for herself, but for all the other test subjects. Can I see the real catacombs first? The actual historical site? Elena hesitated. Why? I've spent my entire life, real or simulated, interested in history and archaeology. If I'm going to lose my consciousness anyway, I'd like to see something authentic first. The real catacombs are just empty tunnels carved in rock. Nothing interesting. Please, it's the last thing I'll ever ask for. Elena considered this for a moment, then shrugged. I suppose there's no harm in it. The ancient sections are through that door. She pointed to a heavy metal door on the far side of the chamber. But make it quick. The integration process is scheduled to begin in 30 minutes. Vera walked toward the door, trying to appear calm while her mind raced. She had no plan, no weapons, no way to communicate with the outside world. But she couldn't just accept the destruction of her consciousness without fighting back. The metal door opened onto a narrow stone corridor that felt completely different from the modern laboratory. The air was cool and damp, and her footsteps echoed off ancient walls. This was real stone, carved by human hands centuries ago. She followed the corridor for several minutes, passing small chambers that had once held the bodies of early Christians. The walls were covered with primitive paintings and inscriptions, faded but still visible after all these years. At the end of the corridor, she found something Elena hadn't mentioned, a small chamber with a natural spring bubbling up from the floor. The water was crystal clear and surprisingly warm. More importantly, the chamber contained something else, a modern control panel built into the ancient wall. It was clearly part of the Vatican facility's systems, but it was hidden away from the main laboratory. Vera examined the panel. It appeared to be some kind of emergency override system. There were switches labeled with technical terms she didn't understand, but one section was clearly marked. Subject Memory Restoration Protocol. She thought about the test subjects lying in the medical beds, living false lives while their real memories were suppressed. If this system could restore their original consciousness, maybe she could help them. But using the panel would certainly alert the facility's security systems. She'd have minutes at most before they found her. Vera made her decision. She began flipping switches and pressing buttons, following the restoration protocol sequence. Alarms immediately began blaring throughout the facility. Over the intercom, she heard Elena's voice. Security to ancient section. Test subject has breached emergency systems. The control panel's screen lit up with status indicators. Memory restoration initiated, it displayed. Estimated completion, 15 minutes. Footsteps echoed from the corridor behind her. Multiple people running toward her location. Vera looked around the chamber for anything she could use to defend herself. The ancient walls offered no weapons, but the natural spring gave her an idea. She grabbed a loose stone from the wall and began smashing the control panel's physical interfaces. If she could damage the system enough to prevent them from stopping the restoration process, the test subjects might have a chance to recover their real memories. Stop! Elena appeared in the chamber doorway, flanked by 2 security guards. You're destroying years of research. Good, Vera said, continuing to smash the control panel. People deserve to live their own lives, not the ones you create for them. You don't understand. Most of these people came to us voluntarily. They were suffering from severe depression, trauma, addiction. We gave them better lives than they could have had naturally. That was their choice to make. Elena gestured to the guards. Restrain her. As the guards moved toward Vera, the chamber suddenly filled with the sound of screaming from the main laboratory. Not screams of pain, but of terror and confusion. The test subjects were waking up. Elena's face went pale. The restoration process. They're remembering everything. Through the chamber doorway, Vera could see people in white laboratory coats running through the corridors. The synchronized movements were gone, replaced by panic and chaos. Years of conditioning destroyed in minutes, Elena said. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've given people back their real lives. Their real lives were miserable. We saved them from poverty, abuse, mental illness, and replaced it with lies. Vera dropped the stone. The control panel was completely destroyed, but the restoration process was still running on backup systems. At least their suffering belonged to them. The screaming from the laboratory was getting louder. Elena spoke into a radio. Initiate facility lockdown. Prepare emergency memory wipe protocols for all subjects. No, Vera said. You can't put them back. Watch me. Elena pulled out a small device that looked like a remote control. Facility-wide neural override. It will reset everyone's consciousness to baseline in under 60 seconds. She pressed a button. Nothing happened. Elena pressed the button again, then began frantically adjusting settings on the device. The control panel, Vera realized. I damaged the central processing systems. Your override isn't working. This is temporary. We have backup facilities in 12 countries. Even if this location is compromised, the project will continue. Maybe, but these people are free now. Elena's expression shifted from frustration to something like sadness. You think you've won something, but freedom without happiness is just suffering with extra steps. That's not your decision to make. The screaming from the laboratory had stopped. Now Vera could hear voices, confused conversations as people tried to understand what had happened to them. A man appeared in the chamber doorway. He looked disoriented but alert. Elena? What is this place? I remember. I was in New York, but then I was here, but I was also living in London working as an archaeologist. None of it makes sense. Dr. Hartwell, Elena said, you need to return to your bed. The treatment isn't complete. Treatment for what? I feel fine. Confused, but fine. He looked around the ancient chamber. These are real catacombs. I can tell by the construction techniques. But what's all this modern equipment doing here? More people began crowding into the chamber. All of them looked confused, but increasingly alert. Their synchronized movements were gone, replaced by individual human personalities. My name is Vera, she announced to the group. I think we've all been prisoners here. Our memories were altered, and we've been living false lives while these people experimented on our minds. That's impossible, said a woman with gray hair. I remember my entire life. I'm a retired teacher from Boston. I remember being a construction worker in Detroit, said another man. But I also remember being a priest in Ireland. How can I have two complete sets of memories? Elena backed toward the chamber wall. The restoration process is imperfect. You're experiencing memory bleeding between your constructed and original personalities. The confusion will only get worse. Then help us sort it out, Vera said. Tell us which memories are real. I can't. The original memory files were destroyed as part of the standard protocol. Your true histories are gone forever. The group of former test subjects looked at each other with growing understanding. They'd been given fake lives, but they couldn't fully recover their real ones either. So what are we supposed to do? Asked Dr. Hartwell. You're free to leave, Elena said, but you'll spend the rest of your lives trying to figure out which memories are authentic. You'll never be certain about anything from your past. Better than being your puppets, Vera said. Is it? How do you build a life when you don't know which experiences actually happened to you? It was a fair question. Vera could feel the confusion in her own mind. Childhood memories that felt real, but might be fabricated. Emotions connected to people who might never have existed. Skills and knowledge that could be genuine or implanted. But she also felt something else. The relief of making her own choices, even if they were difficult ones. We'll figure it out together, she said to the group. Whatever's real and whatever isn't, we're real now. We can build new lives based on who we choose to be, not who they programmed us to be. Elena shook her head. You're making a mistake. In 6 months, When you're all struggling with identity confusion and existential doubt, you'll wish you'd stayed. Maybe, but it will be our mistake to make. The facility's lights began flashing red. An automated voice announced, "Security breach. Initiating emergency evacuation protocols." "The authorities have been notified," Elena said. "Even if you escape, this technology exists. Other facilities will continue the work. Then we'll stop them too." Elena laughed. "How? You don't even know who you really are." Vera looked around at the group of confused but determined people surrounding her. "We'll start by remembering this. All of us, together. We'll make sure everyone knows what happened here. Who's going to believe you? A group of people with scrambled memories claiming they were victims of a mind control experiment? You'll be dismissed as delusional. Maybe, but some people will listen, and that's how change starts." The group began moving toward the corridor, helping each other navigate the confusion of their mixed memories. They didn't know who they had been, but they knew who they were choosing to become. As they reached the corridor, Vera turned back to Elena. "Why did you really let me see the catacombs?" Elena hesitated, then said quietly, "Because part of me hoped you'd do exactly what you did. The work was important, but not at the cost of human dignity. Come with us." "I can't. My real memories were overwritten years ago. I don't know who I was before this project. This is all I have left." Vera felt a moment of sympathy, but the facility's alarms were getting louder. "Then start over. Like we're going to." "It's too late for me." Vera and the other survivors made their way through the facility corridors, past abandoned workstations and scattered research files. The synchronized workers had all disappeared, presumably evacuated through other exits. They reached the surface to find Vatican security personnel waiting for them. But instead of arresting them, the officers helped them out of the building and provided medical attention. "Cardinal Toretti wants to speak with all of you," one officer explained. "He says this facility was operating without Vatican authorization." Over the following weeks, Vera and the other survivors worked with international investigators to expose the Consciousness Research Project. The story made global headlines, though public reaction was mixed. Some people were horrified by the violation of human rights. Others argued that the technology could be beneficial if used ethically. 12 other facilities were discovered and shut down. Hundreds of additional victims were found and restored, though most experienced the same memory confusion as Vera's group. Vera eventually settled in a small town in Oregon, working as a volunteer coordinator for a nonprofit organization that helped survivors of psychological abuse. She never fully sorted out which of her memories were real, but she built new experiences that felt authentic. Sometimes she still wondered about her original life, who her real family was, what her actual childhood had been like, whether any of her skills and interests were genuinely hers. But she'd learned to live with uncertainty. More importantly, she'd learned the value of choosing her own path, even when the destination was unknown. The Vatican facility was converted into a memorial and research center dedicated to the ethical study of consciousness. Elena Sinclair disappeared during the evacuation and was never found. But the work she'd described, the development of consciousness control technology, had been stopped, at least temporarily. And that, Vera decided, was enough. On quiet evenings in Oregon, she would sometimes dream about ancient stone corridors and natural springs bubbling up from underground chambers. She was never sure if these dreams were memories of the real catacombs or just another layer of constructed experience. But they felt like freedom, and that was all that mattered.